Hi, Tom from bknutrition.com, and in this video I'm going to help you understand how to feel better about overeating or having a drink on the weekend which you feel has ruined your diet efforts and has maybe set you back so that you've potentially undone all the good work that you've done in the previous week. So this is something that is quite common that I come across with clients, and it's also, I see a lot of people talking about on social media that they ruin their diet from drinking on the weekend, and they've got to get back on the wagon and all this sort of stuff. And a lot of people also feel as though because they've done this, because they've ruined their diet, why bother continuing with their diet, because it's something that they're always going to do. And this is something that does put people off doing diets and doing body transformations and actually making a difference to how they look and feel, because they feel as though they've let themselves down, and that why bother doing all this stuff in the week and putting yourself through all that turmoil in the week because you're just going to mess it up on the weekend by binging and overeating. So that's what I want to talk about today, and how I approach it with clients, and how to feel better about it, and actually how to come out the other side with a positive mindset and actually do something positive to get better results in the following week. So first of all, the overeating on the weekend is generally not that much of an issue if you have done your diet or followed your diet properly during the week. Now, most diets, if you've got a coach that's advising you, or you've gone on the internet and got like a calorie calculator to work out your calories, and you've followed that for the week, you probably built up a deficit over the week of around about, let's say, 2,000 calories. So if you've done a 500 calorie deficit for 5 days, Monday to Friday, then you'll have built up a 2,500 calorie deficit. What that means is that to eat to maintenance, as in to not gain body fat, not lose body fat, you've eaten less than that. And so over the course of the week, you've gradually started to lose little bits of body fat by being in that deficit. Now, when you come to the weekend and you overeat, remember that the overeating has to be on top of your maintenance. So let's say, for example, that your maintenance calories to not lose body fat, not gain body fat, is 2,500 calories. And during the week, you've eaten 2,000 calories per day. So you've built up that that sort of buffer, that bank of calories that have contributed to a deficit, and hopefully start to lose some body fat. Now, when you come to the weekend, if we were, say, to overeat by, say, 2,000 calories on the weekend, so on 2,000 on top of your maintenance, so if your maintenance is 2,500 and you overeat by 2,000 calories to, say, 4,500 calories, well, actually, if you do the maths on that, you're still in a 500 calorie deficit for those days. So you won't potentially see anything happening on the scales or in the mirror, but you will actually be in a 500 calorie deficit on average over the course of those 7 days. And this is what a lot of people sort of don't think about. All they think about is that one day of overeating on that one day. They don't see all the good stuff they've done in the previous 5 days. They do feel as though, oh, I've done all that good work and now I've undone it. And the reason for that is because they get on the scales the next day and, oh, look, I've gained 2 kilos. Now, if you want to understand what you have to eat in terms to gain that sort of weight in body fat on the scales, to lose a kilo on the scales, you have to be in a calorie deficit of around about 8,000 calories. So if you had a calorie deficit of 8,000 calories over the course of a certain amount of time, then you would lose around about a kilo of body fat, give or take. Now, it's not just body fat that you lose, you also lose body water. And also, when you're eating to a restricted diet, there's going to be less food volume in your stomach, so you lose weight that way. Now, when you think about it, when you come back to overeating on the weekend, you know, unless you have eaten 8,000 calories over your maintenance, so if you've got a maintenance of 2,500, that would be 10,500 calories. Now, that's a big effort, and I do know some people who could probably manage that, but that's not for everybody, and it's unlikely that you probably hit that amount of calories in one day. Maybe over 2 days or 3 days, but it's unlikely you do that. But the instant hit on the scales is generally because of the increased food volume. You have more food in your stomach, which is causing your body weight to go up, and also because you've maybe eaten more sodium laden foods and more carbohydrates, you've held water in the body to deal with that food, and that is what gives you the immediate uplift in terms of your weight. Now, alcohol as well can cause both dehydration and also the next day water retention. And the thing to remember about alcohol is that because the body can't store alcohol, so you can store carbohydrates in your muscles as glycogen or in the liver as glycogen, you can store fat obviously as body fat, and you can store a certain amount of protein in the body, but only a very small amount, but you can't store alcohol. So if you do ingest alcohol, the body has to metabolize that first and get rid of it and clean it out the system. So that's what your liver does. It helps to reduce the alcohol and get rid of it. And actually, if you take all the break down the alcohol into a space part, you're normally left with a bit of carbohydrates there, which can then be recycled into energy. Now, the body has to do that first. So if you go out for an alcoholic drink and you have a meal with it, because the body processes the alcohol first, it's more likely that the food you have with that alcoholic meal will go into fat storage, because you're probably going to be in a massive surplus of calories for that meal. The body doesn't need all that energy straight away. So generally, if you've had a high, because normally when you have a alcoholic drink, you tend to have like a takeaway or something with it as well, which something which is high in fat. So you can store more fat from that meal when you have an alcoholic drink. So if you're going out for a load of drinks with your friends and then afterwards you have a takeaway, then it's likely that the majority of that takeaway would end up as some sort of body fat. However, that doesn't mean that you're going to store it forever, because your body is always in a state of flux where it's burning body fat and storing body fat. Now, the thing about if you have a really heavy alcohol session the next day, you generally don't tend to eat a lot because you don't feel like eating. And I know there's some people who go out for the sort of the hair of the dog type breakfast, but normally if you've had that bit of a bender and gone off the rails, then you generally don't eat a lot for the next day. So the calories, the balance of those calories will be redressed by the fact that you don't eat as much the next day, but also because you're not eating a lot, then some of that body fat that's been stored will be released for energy. So when we think about that, we've got to think about the average of everything. So even overeating, even having alcohol, because of the after effects of that, you potentially won't eat a lot for the next day or two. So that can help redress the balance. Now, the problem is that people don't log what they've eaten, they don't track what they've eaten, they just perceive it as a lot of food, a lot of calories. And because they see the weight gain come on the scales, immediately it's like, oh look, I've ruined my diet, it's all gone to pot, what am I going to do now? I know what I'll do. I'll give myself loads of food to eat because I feel bad about myself. And this is actually the thing that upsets the diet plan, because if you think about what I just said about the average of calories over those days, it's unlikely you're in that much of a surplus. It's unlikely that you've really gone to town and gained a kilo of body fat. And even if you've got a couple of kilos come on the scales, that will come off within the next day or so if you got back straight onto your plan and went straight back onto your diet. The problem is people don't do that. What they do instead is think that their diet's ruined, so then they take pity on themselves, and part of that self-pity is overeating. And so what they do is they eat a load of chocolate, eat a load of cakes, go out for another drink maybe, takeaway, etc., etc. And if this happens on a Saturday night and the Sunday you're feeling bad, generally what happens is I will get back onto my diet on Monday. The problem is then is Sunday becomes an eating fest because you've got this limit you've placed on yourself to start the diet on Monday. So you eat tons on Sunday, and when you get on the scales on Monday, you've now gained more weight. And some of that will be body fat because you've overeaten more on Sunday. So the solution for all of this is to recognize that these things happen. Sometimes you go out for alcoholic drinks, sometimes you overeat on the weekend. That sort of thing does happen. It happens very regularly with my clients. And when we discuss it afterwards, we always say, well, let's look at what happens. Let's get straight back onto the diet and let's look what happens. And sure enough, in the following 2 or 3 days, that weight comes off. And because they've gone straight back onto their plan and started eating back the foods that they like, what then happens is because they then had all these high amount of calories come in, the body does a small upregulation of its metabolism to deal with excess calories. And then what happens is you get straight back on the diet. And because the metabolism is elevated ever so slightly for a day or so, you then start to burn calories at a higher rate, ever so small. It's not going to be massive, fat burning affair. But what happens is you get back on the diet, you go back into your calorie deficit, and then if you go training and go exercising, because you've got all those calories from the overeating that you've done, you actually get a better workout the next day. And what happens is you're straight back into your program and you start to lose more body fat in the next couple of days. So you have this blip where the weight goes up and then subsequently followed by a dip, and you'll probably end up less body weight and probably less body fat in the next sort of 5 to 6 days. But that's only if you recognize that that's just a temporary thing that's happened and you need to get back onto your diet. The problem is the majority of people don't do that. What they do is they think that it's all gone to pot and they just overeat massively. And then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I have overeaten, I have ruined my diet, let's eat more food. Oh look, I have actually now ruined my diet. So this is this video I want to relay to you that it's quite normal to go out and have nights out. And I say to my clients, I do not want them to stop going out for alcoholic drinks. I do not want them to stop going out for takeaways and stuff like that, because that stuff is important for social contact and for developing relationships with friends and also partners and stuff like that. If you try and restrict yourself, as in I'm not drinking for 12 weeks while I'm doing this diet plan, I'm not having takeaways for 12 weeks while I'm doing this diet plan, what actually happens is you start building up all this expectation of this massive blowout at the end, and then you've done all that hard work for 12 weeks, and because you've restricted yourself, put yourself in this prison of I'm not going to do the things that I enjoy doing, as soon as that 12-week or 6-week diet or whatever ends, you're straight back into it, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You then do gain weight back again. And because you've now come off the diet and you've not got that plan anymore, you are actually expecting things to go south anyway. And so it is, again, a self-fulfilling prophecy. You gain all the way back again. And this is quite common for people. They go on these 6-week shred programs or 12-week transformation programs, look really good for those 12 weeks, and then come off. The coach says, right, see you later, bye, no aftercare. And then what happens is they go straight back into the way they were eating before because they had all these restrictions, and they gain loads of body fat back again. And then 2 weeks later or 2 months later, whatever, they're knocking on the door of the coach or the diet program, whatever, and saying, can I come back in again because I've got fat again? And the cycle repeats itself. So I want to relay to you that you don't have to do that. Incorporate your calories from alcohol, incorporate your overeating into your plan, even plan for it. So I've done videos on banking and spending in my YouTube. You can have a look at those. And it's where you plan for the calories that you're going to eat on the weekend by restricting yourself on the week, and then you eat those calories on the weekend, or drink them if you want to go out for an alcoholic drink. It's fairly easy to find calories for alcohol on the net. All you have to do is, say you've got MyFitnessPal, you can put it into there, or one of the other calorie tracking programs, you can put that all into there. It's fairly easy to find out what the lower calorie alcohol things are. Spirits are one of them, low calorie mixes. So you can find out what drinks you like, look at the low calorie options and go for there. So you can enjoy nights out, you can enjoy takeaways, you can enjoy alcohol, enjoy it sensibly, responsibly, of course, and make sure that once you've had that release and you've gone out with your friends and you had a nice night, then you're back onto your program the next day so that you can continue to make progress and you still have that social environment. So hope this video was helpful. If it was, please like, share, etc, etc. Share it with a mate who is always going out on drinks and then ruining their diet. Maybe it'll help them, and I'll see you on the next video. Cheers for watching.